This video contains audio content only. There are no visual elements or images accompanying the audio. If you're expecting to see video footage, please note that this is an intentional audio-only presentation. We recommend listening to this content rather than watching the screen. Thank you for your understanding and enjoy the audio. Welcome, curious minds and culture enthusiasts. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating journey into the heart of eastern Turkey to explore the enigmatic world of the Zaza people. Nestled in the rugged mountains and fertile valleys of provinces like Tunceli, Bingöl, and Diyarbakir, the Zaza have long been a subject of intrigue and debate among scholars, politicians, and their neighbors alike. Who are the Zaza? Where did they come from? What makes their culture unique? And how are they navigating the complexities of identity, language, and tradition in the modern world? These are just a few of the questions we'll be diving into today. The Zaza people, numbering somewhere between 2 to 3 million, have a rich tapestry of history, language, and culture that sets them apart from their Kurdish and Turkish neighbors. Yet, their story is often overshadowed by larger geopolitical narratives in the region. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal the captivating tale of a people caught between ancient traditions and modern realities. From the misty origins of their ancestors to the vibrant diaspora communities spreading across Europe, the Zaza story is one of resilience, adaptation, and the enduring power of cultural identity. We'll explore the unique Zazaki language, delve into their diverse religious practices, and examine the challenges they face in preserving their heritage. But this isn't just a story about a small ethnic group in a far-off land. The Zaza experience touches on universal themes of belonging, cultural preservation, and the struggle for recognition in an increasingly globalized world. Their journey offers valuable insights into the complexities of ethnic identity, the power of language in shaping worldviews, and the delicate balance between tradition and progress. So, whether you're a history buff, a language enthusiast, or simply someone curious about the rich diversity of human cultures, you're in for a treat. Get ready to discover a world where ancient beliefs coexist with modern politics, where a language fights for survival against all odds, and where a people strive to define their place in the 21st century. Let's begin our exploration of the fascinating world of the Zaza people. 1. The mysterious origins of the Zaza people. Our journey begins with a tantalizing mystery that has puzzled scholars for generations. Where exactly did the Zaza people come from? Like many origin stories, the roots of the Zaza are shrouded in the mists of time, with competing theories and tantalizing clues scattered throughout history. One of the most intriguing theories, known as the Dalamite hypothesis, suggests that the Zaza originated from the Dalamite people of the Caspian region in northern Iran. Picture, if you will, a group of hardy mountain dwellers, fiercely independent and known for their martial prowess, setting out on an epic migration westward sometime between the 10th and 12th centuries. This wasn't just a casual relocation, it was likely spurred by the tumultuous events of the time, including the Seljuk invasions and the looming threat of Mongol hordes sweeping across Asia. Imagine the courage and determination it would have taken to leave behind everything familiar and venture into unknown lands, all in search of a new home. But why believe this theory? Well, linguistic evidence offers some compelling clues. The Zazaki language, with its unique features and vocabulary, shows remarkable similarities to other languages of the Caspian region, such as Jalaki and Mazandarani. It's as if the language itself is a time capsule, preserving echoes of its ancient homeland in every word and phrase. Adding fuel to this theory is the Zaza people's own name for themselves, Dimli, or Dumli. Linguists have suggested this could be a variant of Dalami, meaning from Dalam. It's like a linguistic breadcrumb trail leading back to their ancestral home. But hold on, the plot thickens. Some scholars argue for a much earlier presence of Zaza ancestors in their current homeland. They point to potential connections with ancient peoples of the region, such as the Urartians or even earlier Indo-European settlers. This theory paints a picture of the Zaza as an indigenous people, with roots stretching back millennia in the very soil they still call home. To complicate matters further, genetic studies have entered the fray. Recent DNA analysis has revealed a complex genetic makeup among the Zaza, showing connections to various populations across the Middle East and Caucasus. It's like piecing together a human jigsaw puzzle, with each gene telling a part of an ancient story of migration, intermarriage, and cultural exchange. One particularly fascinating discovery came from a study comparing Zaza DNA with that of ancient samples from the region. Researchers found significant genetic similarities between modern Zaza individuals and Bronze Age samples from eastern Turkey. Can you imagine the thrill of discovering that your DNA carries echoes of people who lived and loved in the same valleys and mountains thousands of years ago? But genetics is just one piece of the puzzle. The Zaza oral tradition is rich with legends and stories that hint at their origins. One popular tale speaks of a great migration led by two brothers, Zaza and Lolo, who guided their people to their new homeland. While such stories may not be historically accurate in a literal sense, they often contain kernels of truth passed down through generations. The debate over Zaza origins isn't just an academic exercise. It has real-world implications for how the Zaza see themselves and how others perceive them. Some argue that emphasizing distinct Dalamite origins sets the Zaza apart from their Kurdish neighbors, while others see shared Indo-Iranian roots as a unifying factor. This origin debate took an unexpected turn in the late 20th century when it became entangled with political movements. Some Turkish nationalists, in an attempt to weaken Kurdish unity, promoted the idea of separate Zaza origins. Meanwhile, some Zaza intellectuals embraced the distinct origin theory as a way to assert their unique identity and cultural rights. The search for Zaza origins has led researchers to some unexpected places. One intriguing study examined place names in the Zaza homeland, finding surprising connections to locations in the Caspian region. Imagine the excitement of a linguist realizing that the name of a tiny Zaza village might be the key to unlocking centuries of hidden history. Another fascinating angle comes from religious studies. The presence of certain beliefs and practices among some Zaza groups, such as elements of nature worship or unique festivals, has led some scholars to suggest connections to pre-Islamic Iranian religions like Zoroastrianism. It's as if fragments of ancient belief systems have survived, hidden within the folds of more recent religious traditions. As we've seen, the quest to uncover the origins of the Zaza people is like unraveling a complex tapestry, with threads of linguistics, genetics, oral tradition, and historical records all intertwining. While we may never know the full story with absolute certainty, each new discovery adds another fascinating chapter to the Zaza saga. What's clear is that the Zaza, far from being a simple, isolated mountain people, are the product of a rich and complex history of migration, cultural exchange, and adaptation. Their story reminds us that identity is rarely simple or static. It's a living, evolving thing shaped by countless factors over centuries. As we move forward in our exploration of Zaza culture and society, keep in mind this backdrop of mystery and debate. It adds depth and nuance to every aspect of Zaza life, from their language to their traditions, and helps us appreciate the unique perspective they bring to the modern world. 2. Zazaki, a language fighting for survival. Now, let's turn our attention to one of the most distinctive and precious aspects of Zaza culture, their language, Zazaki. Imagine a language that has survived for centuries, passed down through generations in remote mountain villages, only to find itself fighting for survival in the modern world. This is the story of Zazaki, a linguistic treasure trove that offers a unique window into the Zaza worldview and way of life. Zazaki, also known as Dimli or Kermanshki, is a fascinating language that belongs to the northwestern branch of the Iranian language family. It's closely related to languages like Gorani and Talishi, but distinct from Kurdish, despite often being mistakenly labeled as a Kurdish dialect. Linguists describe Zazaki as a language isolate within its family, meaning it's in a category of its own, a linguistic lone wolf, if you will. What makes Zazaki so special? For one, it's incredibly diverse for a language spoken by a relatively small population. Zazaki has three main dialects, Northern, Central, and Southern, each with its own unique features. Imagine traveling just a few valleys over and suddenly struggling to understand your neighbors. This diversity is a testament to the rugged, isolated terrain of the Zaza homeland, where each village developed its own linguistic quirks over centuries. One of the most intriguing features of Zazaki is its complex system of ergativity. Now, don't let that technical term scare you off. It's actually a fascinating concept. In Zazaki, the way a sentence is structured can change depending on whether the verb is in the past or present tense. It's as if the language itself is shifting perspective, viewing actions from different angles depending on when they occurred. This feature is rare among Iranian languages and gives Zazaki a unique flavor that linguists find endlessly fascinating. But Zazaki isn't just interesting to academics. It's a living, breathing language that shapes how its speakers see the world. The Zaza people have a saying, Zaiwain ma, nasnemea ma ya, which means, our language is our identity. This simple phrase encapsulates the deep connection between Zazaki and Zaza culture. The language is a repository of traditional knowledge, from ancient folktales to the names of medicinal plants found in the mountains. Consider, for example, the rich vocabulary Zazaki has for describing its natural environment. There are dozens of words for different types of terrain, weather conditions, and plant species that simply don't have direct translations in languages like English or Turkish. Each of these words carries with it a deep understanding of the local ecosystem, passed down through generations of Zaza people living in close harmony with their environment. Zazaki also preserves echoes of ancient belief systems in its vocabulary and expressions. Some linguists have identified words and phrases that seem to harken back to pre-Islamic Iranian religions, offering tantalizing clues about the spiritual history of the Zaza people. It's as if the language itself is a time capsule, preserving fragments of long-forgotten worldviews. But here's where our story takes a more somber turn. Zazaki, like many minority languages around the world, is facing an uphill battle for survival in the modern era. UNESCO has classified Zazaki as a vulnerable language, meaning it's at risk of falling out of use if action isn't taken to preserve it. The challenges facing Zazaki are numerous. For decades, the Turkish government pursued policies of linguistic assimilation, discouraging or even banning the use of minority languages like Zazaki in public life. Imagine being punished for speaking the language of your parents and grandparents, a language that carries your entire cultural heritage. This led to a generation of Zaza children growing up without full fluency in their ancestral tongue. Urbanization and globalization have also taken their toll. As more Zaza people move to cities in search of economic opportunities, they often find themselves in environments where Turkish or other majority languages dominate. Young Zazas, eager to fit in and succeed in the modern world, sometimes view their ancestral language as a relic of the past, something to be set aside in favor of more useful languages. But all is not lost. In recent years, there's been a growing movement to revitalize and preserve Zazaki. This renaissance began in the 1980s when Zaza intellectuals in the diaspora, particularly in Germany, began developing a standardized writing system for the language. Imagine the excitement of seeing your spoken language transformed into written form for the first time, opening up new possibilities for literature, education, and cultural expression. This written form of Zazaki has led to a blossoming of Zaza literature. Poets, novelists, and journalists have embraced the language, creating works that explore both traditional Zaza culture and contemporary issues. One particularly moving example is the poetry of Rosen Lezgin, whose verses paint vivid pictures of Zaza life and landscapes, preserving cultural memories in lyrical form. Technology has also become an unexpected ally in the fight to preserve Zazaki. Social media platforms and online forums have become gathering places for Zaza speakers from around the world to connect, share resources, and keep their language alive. There are now Zazaki language learning apps, YouTube channels dedicated to Zaza music and storytelling, and even attempts to develop Zazaki voice recognition software. Education is another crucial battleground in the effort to keep Zazaki alive. In recent years, there have been pushes to introduce Zazaki language classes in schools in Zaza majority areas. While progress has been slow and often met with bureaucratic resistance, these efforts represent a crucial step in ensuring that future generations grow up with a strong connection to their linguistic heritage. The Zaza diaspora has played a significant role in these preservation efforts. Zaza communities in countries like Germany, Sweden, and the Netherlands have established cultural centers and language schools to keep Zazaki alive among immigrant populations. It's a poignant image: Zaza parents and grandparents, perhaps working as factory workers or shopkeepers by day, transforming into language teachers by night, passing on their precious linguistic heritage to a new generation growing up far from the Zaza homeland. One particularly inspiring initiative is the Zazaki Wikipedia project. A dedicated group of volunteers has created over 40,000 articles in Zazaki, covering topics from ancient history to modern science. This not only preserves the language but also expands its vocabulary to deal with contemporary concepts, proving that Zazaki is not just a relic of the past but a living, evolving language capable of engaging with the modern world. The fight to preserve Zazaki is about more than just words, it's about preserving a unique way of seeing and understanding the world. Each time a Zaza child learns to speak the language of their ancestors, each time a new book is published in Zazaki, it's a small victory in the larger battle to maintain the rich diversity of human culture and experience. As we continue our exploration of Zaza culture, keep in mind the central role that language plays in shaping identity, preserving knowledge, and connecting generations. The story of Zazaki, its ancient roots, its struggle for survival, and its ongoing renaissance, is in many ways the story of the Zaza people themselves. 3. Between Two Worlds. Zaza Identity and the Kurdish Question. As we delve deeper into the world of the Zaza people, we encounter a complex and often contentious issue that lies at the heart of Zaza identity: the relationship between the Zaza and their Kurdish neighbors. This is not just an academic debate about ethnic classifications. It's a living, breathing issue that affects how Zaza people see themselves, how they're perceived by others, and even how they navigate the political landscape of modern Turkey. To understand this issue, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture of ethnic identity in eastern Turkey. The region has been home to a diverse mix of peoples for millennia, with waves of migration, conquest, and cultural exchange shaping the ethnic landscape. The largest minority group in the area is the Kurds, who have a long history of struggling for cultural and political rights within Turkey. Now, here's where things get interesting and complicated. For much of recent history, the Zaza were often lumped together with the Kurds by outsiders, including the Turkish state. Many Kurds also consider the Zaza to be a subgroup of the larger Kurdish nation. But is this accurate? The answer, like so much in the realm of ethnic identity, is far from simple. On one side of the debate, we have those who argue strongly for a distinct Zaza identity. They point to the significant differences between the Zazaki language and Kurdish dialects, as well as unique cultural practices and traditions. Some Zaza intellectuals and activists have embraced this view, seeing it as a way to assert their unique heritage and fight for specific Zaza rights and recognition. One passionate advocate for distinct Zaza identity shared this perspective: "We Zazas have our own language, our own customs, our own history. We've lived alongside Kurds for centuries, but that doesn't make us Kurdish any more than living in Turkey makes us Turkish. Our identity is our own, and we have the right to define ourselves." This view gained traction in the late 20th century, partly in response to what some Zazas saw as cultural domination by larger Kurdish political and cultural movements. It's a familiar story in the world of ethnic minorities, a smaller group asserting its unique identity within a larger, more politically organized community. On the other side, we have those who see the Zaza as part of the broader Kurdish nation. They emphasize the shared Iranian roots of Zaza and Kurdish languages, as well as centuries of intermarriage and cultural exchange. Many Zaza individuals do indeed identify as Kurdish, participating in Kurdish political movements and cultural activities. A Zaza man who identifies as Kurdish explained it this way: "My grandfather spoke Zazaki, my father speaks both Zazaki and Kermanji, and I grew up speaking Kermanji. But we've always considered ourselves Kurds. Our languages may be different, but our struggle, our culture, our connection to this land, that's what makes us Kurdish." This perspective is particularly common among Zaza communities that have been closely integrated with Kurdish populations for generations. In some areas, the lines between Zaza and Kurdish communities have become so blurred that it's difficult to draw clear distinctions. Adding another layer of complexity to this issue is the role of religion. The Zaza population is divided between Sunni Muslims and Alevis, a syncretic religious group with roots in Shia Islam but incorporating elements of other traditions. This religious divide often aligns with different perspectives on identity. Sunni Zazas, who share their faith with many Kurds, are more likely to identify as part of the broader Kurdish community. Alevi Zazas, on the other hand, often emphasize their distinct identity, seeing their unique religious practices as a key part of what sets them apart. The debate over Zaza identity isn't just academic, it has real-world implications. In Turkey, where minority rights have long been a contentious issue, how the Zaza are classified can affect everything from language rights and education to political representation. Some argue that emphasizing a distinct Zaza identity could lead to greater recognition and protection of Zaza culture. Others worry that it could weaken broader movements for minority rights in Turkey by fragmenting the Kurdish community. This identity question has led to some fascinating and sometimes tense dynamics within Zaza communities. Imagine family gatherings where one generation proudly identifies as Kurdish, while younger members assert a distinct Zaza identity. Or consider the challenges faced by Zaza politicians. Do they align themselves with Kurdish political parties, or push for separate Zaza representation? One particularly poignant example of these tensions played out in the town of Varto in Muş province. In 2014, a group of Zaza activists organized a festival celebrating Zaza language and culture. While many in the community embraced the event, it also sparked heated debates. Some local Kurdish politicians criticized the festival, seeing it as an attempt to divide the Kurdish movement. The organizers, in turn, accused their critics of trying to suppress Zaza cultural expression. It was a microcosm of the larger identity debate, playing out in the streets and homes of a small mountain town. The complexity of this issue is perhaps best illustrated by the story of Mehmet, a Zaza man from Dersim, Tunceli, who shared his personal journey. Growing up, I always thought of myself as Kurdish. It wasn't until I went to university in Ankara that I really started to explore my Zaza roots. I learned about our distinct language, our unique history. Now, I see myself as both Zaza and Kurdish, it's not one or the other. My Zaza heritage is what makes me unique within the broader Kurdish community. Mehmet's perspective highlights an important point: identity doesn't have to be an either-or proposition. Many Zaza people navigate multiple layers of identity, seeing themselves as Zaza, Kurdish, and Turkish citizens all at once. It's a nuanced view that reflects the complex reality of ethnic identity in a diverse, interconnected world. The debate over Zaza identity has also spilled over into the academic world, with linguists, anthropologists, and historians weighing in. Some scholars argue for a distinct Zaza ethnicity based on linguistic and cultural evidence, while others see the Zaza as part of a broader Kurdish cultural continuum. This academic debate, while sometimes arcane, has real-world impacts as it influences how governments, NGOs, and international organizations approach Zaza issues. One particularly interesting development in recent years has been the rise of Zaza studies as an academic field. Universities in Turkey and Europe have begun offering courses and even degree programs focused specifically on Zaza language, literature, and culture. This academic recognition has given new weight to claims of distinct Zaza identity, while also providing valuable resources for preserving and promoting Zaza heritage. The question of Zaza identity has also become entangled with broader political issues in Turkey. Some Turkish nationalists have seized upon the idea of a distinct Zaza identity as a way to weaken Kurdish political movements. By emphasizing differences between Zaza and Kurdish communities, they hope to fragment minority opposition. This politicization of identity has put many Zaza people in a difficult position, forced to navigate between asserting their unique culture and avoiding being used as political pawns. Despite these challenges, many Zaza individuals and communities are finding ways to celebrate their unique heritage while also building bridges with their Kurdish neighbors. Cultural festivals, academic conferences, and joint political initiatives have created spaces where Zaza and Kurdish identities can coexist and even complement each other. One inspiring example of this cooperative spirit can be found in the city of Diyarbakir, often considered the cultural capital of Turkey's Kurdish region. In recent years, the city has hosted events celebrating both Kurdish and Zaza culture, with music, dance, and literary performances showcasing the rich diversity of the region. These events demonstrate that recognition of Zaza identity doesn't have to come at the expense of Kurdish solidarity. As we wrap up our exploration of this complex issue, it's clear that the question of Zaza identity defies simple answers. It's a living, evolving debate that reflects the complex history and contemporary realities of the region. What's certain is that the Zaza people, whether they identify as a distinct ethnicity or as part of the broader Kurdish nation, have a rich cultural heritage that deserves recognition and preservation. The story of Zaza identity is, in many ways, a microcosm of broader questions about ethnicity, nationhood, and belonging in our increasingly interconnected world. It challenges us to think beyond simple categories and recognize the fluid, multifaceted nature of human identity. As we continue our journey through Zaza culture, keep in mind this complex backdrop of identity politics. It informs every aspect of Zaza life, from language use to religious practice to political engagement. 4. Ancient beliefs in modern times. Zaza religious practices. As we delve deeper into the fascinating world of the Zaza people, we come to one of the most intriguing aspects of their culture, their religious practices. The spiritual landscape of the Zaza community is a rich tapestry woven from various threads of belief, ranging from mainstream Islam to ancient pre-Islamic traditions. This unique religious heritage not only shapes the daily lives of many Zaza people but also provides a window into their complex history and worldview. At first glance, the religious makeup of the Zaza community might seem straightforward. The majority of Zazas identify as Muslims, split between Sunni and Alevi branches of Islam. However, scratch beneath the surface, and you'll find a spiritual world far more complex and nuanced than these broad categories suggest. Let's start with the Sunni Zaza population, primarily found in the southern parts of the Zaza homeland. While their religious practices largely align with mainstream Sunni Islam, there are fascinating local traditions that set them apart. For instance, in some Zaza villages, you might witness the practice of Saraya sex, or Sheikh's lamp. This involves lighting a lamp at the tomb of a revered religious figure, believed to bring blessings and protection to the community. It's a beautiful fusion of Islamic veneration of saints with more ancient practices of seeking divine intervention through light and fire. But it's among the Alevi Zazas, predominantly found in the northern regions like Dersim, Tunceli, where we encounter some of the most intriguing religious practices. Alevism itself is a complex and often misunderstood faith, blending elements of Shia Islam with pre-Islamic Turkish and Persian traditions. Among the Zaza Alevis, this syncretic nature is taken even further, incorporating elements that some scholars believe harken back to ancient Iranian religions like Zoroastrianism and even earlier nature worship traditions. One of the most striking aspects of Zaza Alevi practice is the central role of nature in their spiritual life. Sacred natural sites, mountains, springs, trees, play a crucial role in local belief systems. The religion professor Dr. Ahmet Karim Yultaken, who has extensively studied Zaza Alevi practices, shares a fascinating anecdote. In one Dersim village, I witnessed an annual pilgrimage to a nearby mountain peak. The villagers believe this mountain is home to a divine being they call Duzgun Baba. They climb the mountain, perform rituals, and seek blessings. It's a practice that likely predates Islam by millennia, yet it coexists with their Alevi Muslim identity. This reverence for nature is reflected in many aspects of Zaza Alevi life. Traditional healing practices often involve the use of local plants, with knowledge passed down through generations. Each plant is not just seen as a medical resource, but as a living embodiment of divine energy. Imagine a grandmother carefully gathering herbs on a misty mountain slope, murmuring prayers of thanks to the earth as she prepares remedies passed down through countless generations. Another fascinating aspect of Zaza Alevi practice is the Gem ceremony. This is a communal worship service that involves music, dance, and the sharing of food and drink. Unlike mainstream Muslim practices, men and women participate together in these ceremonies. The Gem is led by a Didi, or spiritual leader, who is believed to be descended from the family of Ali, the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad revered in Shia Islam. During the Gem, participants engage in the Sema, a ritual dance that symbolizes the unity of God, Muhammad, and Ali. The dancers move in circles, their movements evoking the planets orbiting the sun, a possible remnant of ancient astronomical worship. As the haunting melodies of the balama, a traditional string instrument, fill the air and the dancers whirl. It's easy to imagine oneself transported back in time, witnessing a ceremony that has remained largely unchanged for centuries. One particularly intriguing element of Zaza Alevi belief is the concept of reincarnation. Unlike mainstream Islamic teachings, many Zaza Alevis believe in the transmigration of souls. This belief is often intertwined with local legends and family histories. One elderly Zaza woman shared her family's belief that her grandfather had been reincarnated as an eagle that nestled in a nearby cliffside. "Every time we see that eagle," she said, "we know our grandfather is watching over us." The Zaza Alevi calendar is also a fascinating blend of Islamic, pre-Islamic, and nature-based observances. While they mark major Islamic holy days, they also celebrate festivals tied to the natural cycles of their mountainous homeland. The spring festival of Gagand, for instance, combines elements of the Persian New Year, Nowruz, with local traditions. Families gather to feast, sing, and light fires to welcome the return of spring, a practice that echoes ancient fire-worshipping rituals. However, it's important to note that these ancient practices are not fossilized relics, but living traditions that continue to evolve. Many younger Zazas, especially those living in urban areas or abroad, are reinterpreting their religious heritage in light of modern sensibilities. Some are drawn to the ecological aspects of traditional Zaza spirituality, seeing it as relevant to contemporary environmental concerns. Others are exploring the philosophical and mystical dimensions of Alevi teachings, finding in them a spiritual path that speaks to their modern lives. This evolution of religious practice is not without controversy. Some conservative elements within both the Sunni and Alevi Zaza communities view these changes with suspicion, fearing the loss of authentic traditions. On the other hand, some secular Zazas argue for a complete break from what they see as outdated superstitions. These debates reflect broader tensions between tradition and modernity that many indigenous cultures face in the globalized world. The religious practices of the Zaza people have also been shaped by historical persecution and the need for secrecy. During the Ottoman Empire and early Turkish Republic, Alevis faced discrimination and sometimes violence. This led to the development of a practice known as taqiyya, concealment of one's true beliefs. Even today, some Zaza Alevis are hesitant to openly discuss their religious practices with outsiders, a legacy of centuries of caution. This history of persecution has also led to a strong emphasis on social justice and equality within Zaza Alevi communities. Many Zaza Alevis see their faith as inherently aligned with progressive values, emphasizing gender equality, environmental stewardship, and communal solidarity. This has sometimes put them at odds with more conservative elements in Turkish society. One cannot discuss Zaza religious practices without mentioning the profound influence of Sufi mysticism. Both Sunni and Alevi Zazas have been deeply influenced by Sufi traditions, with many revered Sufi saints and poets coming from Zaza backgrounds. The poetry of Zaza Sufi mystics, often written in Zazaki, provides a fascinating glimpse into the spiritual worldview of the people. These poems, passed down orally for generations, speak of divine love, the illusory nature of the material world, and the quest for union with the divine, themes that resonate deeply with many Zazas today. As we conclude our exploration of Zaza religious practices, it's clear that this is a spiritual tradition of remarkable depth and complexity. From mountaintop shrines to mystical poetry, from communal ceremonies to personal spiritual quests, the religious life of the Zaza people offers a fascinating window into a unique cultural world. It's a living testament to the enduring power of ancient traditions and their ability to adapt and thrive in the modern world. The religious practices of the Zaza people remind us of the incredible diversity of human spiritual expression. They challenge us to look beyond simplistic categories of Islam or folk religion and recognize the rich, nuanced spiritual landscapes that exist within communities around the world. As we continue our journey through Zaza culture, keep in mind this deep well of spiritual tradition. It informs every aspect of Zaza life, from daily habits to artistic expression to community relationships. 5. From mountains to metropolis, the changing Zaza way of life. As we continue our journey through the world of the Zaza people, we come to a pivotal chapter in their story, the dramatic transformation of Zaza society over the past century. This is a tale of a people moving from isolated mountain villages to bustling urban centers, from a traditional agrarian lifestyle to engagement with the global economy. It's a story of challenges and adaptations, of loss and renewal, that mirrors the experiences of many indigenous peoples in our rapidly changing world. To understand the magnitude of this change, we need to start by painting a picture of traditional Zaza life. For centuries, the majority of Zaza people lived in small, often remote villages nestled in the rugged mountains of eastern Turkey. These communities were largely self-sufficient with an economy based on agriculture, animal husbandry, and traditional crafts. Imagine, if you will, a Zaza village in the early 20th century. Stone houses with flat roofs cluster together on a mountainside, surrounded by terraced fields where wheat, barley, and vegetables are grown. Flocks of sheep and goats graze on nearby slopes. In the village center, elders gather to discuss community matters, while women work at looms, creating the intricate kilims, flat woven rugs, for which the region is famous. This traditional way of life was characterized by strong community bonds, with extended families living and working together. The rhythms of life were dictated by the seasons and agricultural cycles. Traditional knowledge, passed down through generations, guided everything from farming practices to medical treatments to the interpretation of dreams. But this world began to change dramatically in the mid-20th century. A combination of factors, economic pressures, political conflicts, and the allure of modern urban life, led to a massive migration of Zaza people from their ancestral villages to cities both within Turkey and abroad. One of the key drivers of this change was the mechanization of agriculture. As tractors and other modern farming equipment became more common, many small-scale farmers found it difficult to compete. Ahmet, a Zaza man in his 70s, shared his family's experience. "When I was a boy, our whole village would work together at harvest time. But then the big machines came. Suddenly, the work that took 100 people could be done by one man with a tractor. Many families, including mine, had to leave to find work in the cities." The political situation in eastern Turkey also played a significant role in this migration. The region has been marked by periods of conflict and unrest, particularly since the 1980s. Many Zaza villages were caught in the crossfire of conflicts between the Turkish military and Kurdish separatist groups. Some villages were forcibly evacuated, while others saw their residents leave voluntarily to escape the violence. Mehmet, a Zaza writer now living in Istanbul, shared a poignant memory. "I remember the night we left our village. I was just a child. There had been fighting nearby, and my parents decided it wasn't safe anymore. We packed what we could carry and left in the middle of the night. I didn't realize then that I would never see my childhood home again." This mass migration has had profound effects on Zaza society. Today, large Zaza populations can be found in Turkish cities like Istanbul, Izmir, and Ankara, as well as in European countries like Germany, Sweden, and the Netherlands. This urbanization and internationalization of the Zaza community has brought both opportunities and challenges. On the positive side, many Zaza people have found economic opportunities and access to education that were not available in their ancestral villages. Universities in Turkey and Europe now boast Zaza doctors, lawyers, engineers, and academics, professions that would have been almost unimaginable for village children a few generations ago. The urban environment has also provided new platforms for Zaza cultural expression. In cities, Zaza musicians, writers, and artists have found audiences and opportunities to develop their crafts. Zaza cultural associations have sprung up, organizing events and working to preserve and promote Zaza heritage. However, this transition has not been without its costs. Many older Zazas speak with nostalgia of the strong community bonds and connection to nature that characterized village life. In the anonymity of big cities, these traditional support networks have often broken down. Zeynep, a Zaza woman in her 50s living in Izmir, shared her perspective. "And this would have been prepared with locally grown ingredients. Here, we do our best with what we can find. But the spirit of the ceremony, the coming together of the community, that remains the same." The diaspora has also played a crucial role in preserving and promoting Zaza arts and culture. Zaza music, in particular, has found new life in European cities. Traditional instruments like the bağlama, a stringed instrument similar to a lute, are now taught in music schools in Germany and the Netherlands. Zaza musicians have formed bands that blend traditional sounds with modern genres, creating a unique diaspora sound that speaks to the experiences of young Zazas growing up between two cultures. One such musician is Hassan, whose band, Wilat, meaning homeland, in Zazaki, has gained a following across Europe. He shared his perspective: "Our music is a bridge between worlds. We sing in Zazaki about our ancestral lands, but we use electronic beats that speak to our urban reality. It's our way of keeping our roots alive while also embracing our present." Literature has been another important arena for cultural preservation and expression in the diaspora. The first books published in Zazaki were produced by diaspora communities in the 1980s. These publications, often self-funded and distributed through informal networks, were crucial in standardizing written Zazaki and providing a platform for Zaza writers. Today, there's a growing body of Zaza literature produced in the diaspora, ranging from collections of traditional folk tales to contemporary novels exploring the immigrant experience. These works often grapple with themes of identity, belonging, and the tension between tradition and modernity, issues that resonate deeply with diaspora Zazas. The diaspora has also been at the forefront of efforts to document and study Zaza culture and history. Many of the leading scholars in the emerging field of Zaza studies are based in European universities. These academics have played a crucial role in bringing Zaza culture and history to a wider audience and providing a scholarly foundation for Zaza identity claims. Dr. Zeynep Arslan, a Zaza historian at a German university, explained the importance of this work. "For so long, our history was either ignored or subsumed under broader categories. By rigorously studying and documenting our distinct culture and language, we're not just preserving our past, we're securing our future as a recognized people." However, the diaspora experience has not been without its challenges. Many Zaza immigrants, particularly in the early years, faced discrimination and struggled to integrate into their host societies. There have also been tensions within Zaza communities over issues of assimilation versus cultural preservation, and debates over political alignment with broader Kurdish movements. The generational divide is particularly pronounced in diaspora communities. While first-generation immigrants often maintain strong ties to their homeland and traditional ways of life, second- and third-generation Zazas may feel more connected to their countries of birth. This can lead to complex negotiations of identity and sometimes to conflict within families and communities. Aden, a young Zaza man born and raised in Sweden, shared his perspective: "I'm proud of my Zaza heritage, but I'm also Swedish. Sometimes it feels like I'm navigating between different worlds. My grandparents want me to marry a Zaza girl and move back to Turkey someday, but that's not the future I see for myself." Despite these challenges, many young diaspora Zazas are finding innovative ways to connect with their heritage. Social media has become a powerful tool for this generation to explore and express their Zaza identity. Instagram accounts showcasing Zaza culture, YouTube channels teaching Zazaki language, and Twitter hashtags discussing Zaza issues have all become popular ways for diaspora youth to engage with their roots. One particularly interesting phenomenon is the rise of homeland tourism among diaspora Zazas. Many young people, born and raised in Europe, are now making trips to their ancestral villages in Turkey. These journeys, often documented and shared on social media, serve as a way for diaspora youth to connect with their roots and often spark a renewed interest in Zaza culture and language. Layla, a third-generation Zaza from the Netherlands, described her first trip to her grandparents' village. "It was like stepping into the stories I'd heard all my life. Seeing the mountains, tasting the food, hearing Zazaki spoken all around me. It made everything real in a way it had never been before. I came back feeling more Zaza than ever." The diaspora has also been crucial in supporting economic development in Zaza regions of Turkey. Many immigrants send remittances to family members back home, providing a vital economic lifeline for some communities. There have also been initiatives to promote investment and tourism in Zaza areas, with diaspora members often serving as cultural ambassadors and business facilitators. One inspiring example is the Munzer Valley Eco-Tourism Project, spearheaded by a group of Zaza professionals in Germany. This initiative aims to promote sustainable tourism in the Dersim region, preserving the natural environment while providing economic opportunities for local communities. It's a prime example of how diaspora resources and expertise can be leveraged to benefit the homeland. Political activism is another key aspect of the diaspora experience. Zaza communities in Europe have often been more free to advocate for their rights and recognition than those in Turkey. Diaspora organizations have lobbied European governments and international bodies to put pressure on Turkey for greater minority rights. They've also worked to raise awareness about Zaza culture and history among the general public in their host countries. However, this political engagement has sometimes led to tensions with authorities in Turkey, who may view diaspora activists with suspicion. Some Zazas in the diaspora have found themselves unable to return to Turkey due to their political activities, creating a painful separation from their homeland. As we reflect on the Zaza diaspora experience, what emerges is a picture of a community that has managed to recreate and reimagine their culture in new contexts. The diaspora has been crucial in preserving Zaza language, traditions, and identity at a time when these were under threat in the homeland. At the same time, diaspora Zazas have created new, hybrid forms of cultural expression that reflect their unique position between worlds. The story of the Zaza diaspora is, in many ways, a microcosm of the broader immigrant experience in the globalized world. It highlights the challenges of maintaining cultural identity in new environments, the complex negotiations of belonging and identity faced by second- and third-generation immigrants, and the ways in which diaspora communities can serve as bridges between cultures. As we conclude our exploration of Zaza culture, the diaspora experience serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience and adaptability of human cultures. Despite displacement and the challenges of life in new lands, the Zaza people have found ways to keep their culture alive and vibrant. Their story is a testament to the enduring power of cultural identity and the human capacity for renewal and reinvention in the face of change. The Zaza diaspora experience also points to the future, a future where cultural identities are increasingly fluid and multi-layered, where people can be rooted in multiple places and traditions simultaneously. As we navigate our increasingly interconnected world, the Zaza diaspora offers valuable lessons in cultural preservation, adaptation, and the creation of new forms of community and belonging. As we wrap up our journey through the fascinating world of the Zaza people, from their mysterious origins to their vibrant diaspora communities, we're left with a profound appreciation for the richness and resilience of this unique culture. The Zaza story is one of survival against the odds, of a people who have managed to preserve their distinct identity and traditions despite centuries of challenges. We've explored the enigmatic origins of the Zaza, tracing their possible roots from the shores of the Caspian Sea to the rugged mountains of eastern Turkey. We've delved into the complexities of their language, Zazaki, a linguistic treasure fighting for survival in the modern world. We've grappled with the nuanced questions of Zaza identity and their relationship with their Kurdish neighbors. Our journey has taken us through the rich tapestry of Zaza religious practices, where ancient beliefs blend with Islamic traditions to create a unique spiritual landscape. We've witnessed the dramatic transformation of Zaza society, from isolated mountain villages to bustling urban centers and diaspora communities spread across the globe. We've heard the voices of Zaza activists and politicians, fighting for recognition and rights in Turkey and beyond. Finally, we've seen how Zaza culture has been kept alive and vibrant in diaspora communities, adapting to new environments while maintaining deep connections to ancestral traditions. As we conclude, it's clear that the story of the Zaza people is far from over. This is a living, evolving culture that continues to adapt to the challenges of the modern world while striving to maintain its unique heritage. The future of Zaza culture will depend on the efforts of new generations to engage with and reinterpret their traditions in meaningful ways. For those of us outside the Zaza community, their story offers valuable lessons in the importance of cultural diversity and the need to protect and celebrate minority cultures. It challenges us to look beyond surface-level understandings of ethnicity and identity, and to appreciate the rich complexity of human cultural expression. As we end our journey, I encourage you to continue exploring the fascinating world of the Zaza people and other minority cultures. Consider learning more about endangered languages in your own region, or supporting organizations working to preserve indigenous cultures around the world. Remember, every culture has a unique story to tell, a unique perspective on the human experience. By listening to these stories, by striving to understand and appreciate diverse cultural traditions, we enrich our own lives and contribute to a more inclusive and empathetic global community. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Zaza culture. I hope it has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to delve deeper into the rich tapestry of human cultural diversity that surrounds us all. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep exploring.